Hey guys, it's Eddie and I am finally back doing some long awaited reviews. I'm so sorry that I've been absent, but basically I had my exams to complete for uni, and then as soon as my exams finished I fell really ill for over a week, and I couldn't do much other than try to recover. So although I really wanted to get back into reviewing, I kind of had to delay it for a little bit just because I wouldn't have been able to get some very good content out for you guys, and I would have been a bit of a mess. I'm still a bit of a mess. But I thought I would try and get some reviews out for you because I've had a few requests over the course of me being ill and doing exams, so I felt really bad if I delayed it any further. But today we are reviewing the requested film, and I'm so glad this was requested of me because it's one of my absolute favourites, and it is the 80s coming of age classic Stand By Me, starring Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Kiefer Sutherland, Jerry O'Connell, and Richard Dreyfuss. So, this film is, of course, based upon the Stephen King novella The Body. I read it a very long time ago. I probably don't remember much of the book because I've watched the film so many times since then, but I'm going to try and remember some details for you just to do a little bit of comparison if anyone cares, you know. But basically, this film follows the adventure-ish of four boys. They're all friends, and they hear about a young man who has, died in their local town, and his body is somewhere on the outskirts, and they journey to go and find it and go and look at it, just because they want to. And it turns out to be quite an interesting bonding experience for the four of them. And they go through a sequence of events which allows them to sort of open up to each other. And this really cool and complex friendship emerges between the four of them. And it's equal parts emotional and sweet. So it's an interesting premise, of course, for kids going out to find a body. But one that gives room for these characters and these young actors to be the focal point. So the performances, as I will go on to say, by the four main actors, Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell, are really what pulls this film together. They are at the forefront of this movie, and it's fantastic to watch considering these actors were all at a very young age at the time of making this film. So it's also got a fantastic and quotable script, with these young actors moving effortlessly between dramatic, emotional scenes and also quite hilarious moments. And a lot of the hilarious moments provide, really quotable little quips that I use today and I have always kind of used. For example, Pez, cherry flavoured Pez, by the wonderful Jerry O'Connell. So there's a lot of moments that you can pull dialogue from and you find yourself quoting it without even realising it. I think it's just one of those really well written scripts that really embeds itself in your mind, and you just find yourself, reciting dialogue from it because it's really clever. And these young actors delivered these lines in such a way that they are just made even more memorable. And that, I think, is really what is at the forefront of these films. The performances, especially by River as Chris Chambers, they stand out, and River particularly stands out. He shows in this film the promise that was sort of seen by him at the beginning of his career, and it was the start of something beautiful but far too short, unfortunately. But you can already see in this performance the nuances that River is able to provide, his support of Will Wheaton's character Gordy when he is explaining about his family life and the fact that he wants to be an author. He's caring, he's attentive, but we also, in a rather emotional monologue, see the problems and the burdens of his life that he reveals to us. And the young actors make these performances and these characters incredibly endearing. They make you feel sorry for them, they make you understand them. and they make you feel really attached to them as they progress through this journey. So it's really like you're going on the journey with them, and it's really wonderful and fantastic to see. I think these characters are really brought to life, and we all know that Stephen King writes and creates fantastic characters, but these young actors did so well to make all of these characters really individual, really separate, and yet work together as a really harmonious whole. So yeah, I really have no complaints about the boys' performances. They are wonderful, and they just make this movie what it is. So one thing about this movie that I find really interesting is the flashbacks that Gordy experiences. Now, Gordy's brother, who died, is played by the wonderful John Cusack. He's one of my favourites. And I remember in the book that there were a lot of flashbacks that were quite gruesome with regards to Gordy's brother. I think there was one where he sort of imagined him dead, coming forwards at him out of a cupboard or something. Again, my memory of the novella is really, really rusty, so apologies. But I do remember that obviously with a Stephen King novel, it's going to have a little bit of horror. But in the film, they choose to go with, you know, kind of more of a dramatic route within we're remembering sequences from Gordy's home life when his brother was still alive. So I think they made the right choice, because if we'd have had sort of gory flashbacks, they would have felt a little bit too jarring in this film, because despite it being about boys trying to go after and find a dead body, there aren't actually that many sort of horrific moments in. It's more about the boys' personal experiences and that kind of thing. So these flashbacks, I think the way that they're placed within the film serve to perfectly explain Gordy's pain and the resentment that he feels in his home life, and the sort of weight on his shoulders of his brother's death and his parents' feelings about that. So I think, you know, these intersplicings of Gordy's memories are perfectly inserted into the film, and they create, you know, a real attachment for the audience to Gordy, and we're just able to understand him a lot more. And feel his pain a lot more, that he goes on to sort of explain more in the film. So another thing I like about this film is the villain, Ace, Chris Chambers' brother. He's played by Kiefer Sutherland, and he's very cool and suave. He's the villain that you love to hate. I mean, he's... One thing about Kiefer Sutherland is that he as a young man, was incredibly attractive. And so... In my opinion. So like when you see him on screen, he's got this quite commanding air about him, but you know, he's quite cool, but then you see him bullying his brother and you think, oh, you know, I hate this guy. But he's that villain that you really love to hate, and I think that Kiefer Sutherland brings that sort of bullying, domineering sort of just pest of an older brother to life. And I think, you know, his component in the film works really well, especially in the sort of final face-off scene, which is brilliant. I think that this film has, you know, a wonderful title track, the Ben E. King song, Stand By Me, that encompasses the sort of wonderful friendships that we see blossoming on screen throughout the film. It just fits perfectly well, and it makes sense that they changed the title of the film, you know, to coincide with it, because it really does perfectly explain the friendships between the boys, and the hardships that they've been through in their lives, and the fact that they've all got each other to support one another. It's just wonderful. And whenever I hear that song now, I think of the movie. It's just got that really resonating feeling about it. So yeah. One final thing that I do love about this film is Richard Dreyfuss's narration. I think it just pulls everything together in this film. It's nostalgic, it's poignant, it's measured, and it really guides you through this film. And I think it's just incredibly necessary, and it makes you feel even more with these characters, because it tells you, and Richard Dreyfuss as the older Gordy tells you, you know, where these characters have ended up and where he himself has ended up. And I think, you know, without the narration, it wouldn't feel totally whole, because it is that kind of reflective friendship story. And I think I love Richard Dreyfuss. He's actually one of my favourite actors, and I just think his narration is oddly soothing, but it sort of allows the film to come together as this completed whole. And I think, as I've seen, the response to this film, even to this day, is just absolutely incredible. People love it still, and I can see why. I've watched this film countless times beforehand, and I think that just shows the fact that it keeps drawing you back again and again, just shows what an amazing film it is still, and the fact that it still stands up with, and contends with a lot of the greatest films. It's just wonderful, and the fantastic performances coupled with a great script and a great story from Stephen King means that it's just a winning combination for me. So if I had to rate this film, I'd probably give it 5 out of 5 stars. For such young actors, the performances are almost faultless. I think there's some great direction as well. I didn't mention that, but there is some really cool direction, especially with the slow motion parts interspliced with the narration from Older Gordy. It's just a really, really good film, and I would advise anyone to give it a try because it's just one of those classics that you hear so much about, and if you haven't given it a try already, I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. It's just an absolute classic. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. I love this movie, so this was great for me, and of course, you can suggest more movies for me to review by commenting below or messaging me on my Tumblr. The link is always in the description, but that is it for now. Hope you guys have enjoyed this review, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!